Hey everyone, welcome back to Outlaws, the podcast for people who like to colour outside the lines a little bit. I'm Kate.
And I'm Shayla, and today we're starting something new.
In this new semi-regular series, we're going to shine a light on those who've started a smart, sustainable side hustle. No investors, no drama, and no quitting your day job unless that's something you want to do.
And of course, in typical Kate's style, she wants to make up a word for the new segment. So the first one she suggested to me was, what was it? Hustler?
Well, if you say it like that, Shayla, it's not going to work. It's side hustler. The hustle and the law. Side hustler.
Yeah, that's a no-go from me. What else you got?
Okay, well, I did come up with some other options. Sidebar hustle, which is a bit legal, bit casual, rolls off the tongue, a bit easier than side hustler.
Yeah, it's all right, but we're trying not to be lawyers, so keep going.
That's true, actually. I did come up with some other ones. Side quest or the side quest, which is a bit adventurous, bit nerdy and fits the vibe a little bit, I think.
Yeah, don't mind it. I mean, both of them are better than side hustler.
How very dare you? I feel that that's some of my best work. Okay, well, I have one final offer. Outlaws After Hours, which is a bit moody and a bit mysterious and has a bit of sort of professional by day, legend by night energy.
Yep, like it. Okay. Let's go with that. Unless someone else has got a better idea and they should let us know.
I'm a bit excited because I seem to have pleased Shayla. In any event, welcome to our new series, Outlaws After Hours. Let's go with that.
So welcome to Outlaws After Hours, where we meet the rebels who are building something on the side, not just for extra cash, but for freedom, creativity, and a shot at doing work on their own terms. Whether it's for a passion, for a purpose, to bring some joy, or for paying the bills, these outlaws are making it work.
So our guest today is Katie Sierakowski. Katie's a lawyer who knows her way around legislation and litigation. She also knows her way around livestock. So by day, she's advising clients in her own legal practice, and she's also running a cattle business as her own thriving side hustle. So on today's podcast, we're talking about how a legal mind ends up running a rural enterprise. If you've ever wondered what happens when a sharp suit meets muddy boots, this is the episode for you. Katie Sierakowski, welcome to the Outlaws podcast.
Thank you for having me on.
So tell us about your background and how you ended up having this cattle business as well as your own legal practice.
Yes, well, it's probably not that unusual when you understand my background. I was raised on a cattle station in the Kimberley, and we still own our cattle station, and we've expanded to purchase 2 farms near Gingin in Perth. So about 3 years ago, my middle brother, I have 3 brothers, came to me and said, I've got a great idea. Let's buy a cattle herd. And I said, why? And he said, I think it'd be really good for us. Like, we can do some bonding. We can, show mum and dad that we're ready to take over the business when that happens. It'll be a great test subject. And I said, that's all right. That sounds great. What do you need from me? He said, just your money. And I said, yeah, just your money. I'll run it. Don't worry about it. You don't need to put in too much time and effort. I had a 1-year-old at the time, and I was a bit like, I'm not sure that I really have capacity to run a cattle herd, quite frankly.
So what is a cattle herd? How many? You're talking to 2 sort of city slickers here, aren't you, Shayla? That's a fair comment.
So we purchased 200 head of cattle, mixed cows and calves. Cows in calf, so pregnant when we bought them, and calves on the ground. I call that quite a small herd because our herd on the station is about 6,000 head of cattle, and we run a fairly sizable operation up there.
Right. So when you say this is your parents, it's a whole family kind of...
Yeah, we all work in the business.
Yeah.
Or, well, elements of working in the business.
Yeah.
My oldest brother runs the cattle station in the Kimberley. My middle brother, who does this herd mostly with me, he has his own agricultural services business and he does lots of contracting. And then my youngest brother, he ran our farms down south for a couple of years, but he's just moved to Queensland with his wife. But we're all still involved in the business, even if we're not on the ground.
Yeah. So this is kind of like an expansion, like you said.
It was an experiment to show mum and dad that we could do this without killing each other, basically.
So it sounds like you didn't set out to have a side gig. I mean, a lot of people are annoyed with their day job and trying to think about different ways in that they can make money or whatever and actually do quite a lot of research and try and figure out what might be feasible and what's not. But this feels like it just came delivered to you on a platter by your brother.
A little bit.
Right.
But I was looking at the time. I was a bit bored with my day job. I was not overly satisfied with where I was at, and I was going out to the farm a lot to get out of Perth and that sort of thing. So it was a little bit of just convenient timing. John found a herd of cattle for a really good price, and we had the space and capacity and the money to invest. If it had happened 5 years earlier, we wouldn't have had that.
So the farm's in the Kimberley and you were born there and lived there all of your childhood?
Mum and I moved to the Kimberley when I was about 3, and then we moved to the station shortly after that, and I was homeschooled. I went to boarding school. We still have it. So I think Dad's had the station for 35 years. It's not an inherited station, so Dad bought it and built it up. It was a bare block when he bought it, and now it's a fully functioning, developed cattle station with a caravan park on it. So yeah, we grew up there, and it's 5.5 hours from Broome and an hour and a half from the next closest town, which is Fitzroy Crossing, which isn't a particularly large town. And then I went to boarding school, and then I went and did law. So I haven't lived back at the station since I was in year 12, but I go back.
I was going to say, sounds like it's still in the blood a bit.
Yeah, look, I do like going to the station. It is lovely. It's just, it is a bit of it's a flight to Broome and it's a drive, but it is a beautiful place in the world, and I'm very proud of what we as a family have built over time, because we've all been involved in the family business, growing it, and there's been hard times and there's been good times. The cattle industry is notoriously up and down, but yeah, I'm very blessed to have grown up there and very blessed to have this background to be able to, give it to my kids and stuff.
Yeah, so there's almost like a sort of a natural flow on from sort of the family business, but still it's a big thing to take on something else when, like you say, you've got a busy legal practice, you've got young children. So how do you balance courtrooms and cattle?
So the first year, I was involved a lot more on the day-to-day because John, after coming up with this brilliant idea, decided to take a 12-month contract in Darwin. And my other brother, who was also in the business with us, he had an accident 3 years ago and he's a paraplegic. So he was running the logistics of it. But myself and my banker husband had to get into the yards and figure out how to process this cattle herd that we had been told we would be a silent investor in. So the first 18 months we were going up to the farm sort of once every 3 weeks. Mum was living on the farm and she was keeping an eye on the cattle. They're really naughty. Our cattle are really naughty, and they break fences and break troughs, and like not a week would go by without Mum saying, "Your cattle have destroyed another thing. Can you please come up and fix it?" And my brother Matthew was there. He was running logistics, so he was obviously on the ground and being quite helpful. But then John has come back down, and it's eased off the requirement from us to do so much of the day-to-day stuff, and we're now doing more of the logistics and looking at sort of when we're selling and what we're doing, and John's doing the day-to-day stuff. So I guess teamwork is really important. And Mum and Dad, to be honest, have been, every time one of us kids stuffs up and forgets that we're meant to actually be doing something at some point in time, Dad steps in and saves the day, which is fairly useful. And because they're on, we adjust the cattle on the farm that Mum and Dad live on. They're there for the day-to-day stuff.
What does the gist mean?
It basically means you lease part of the land, but you're not there as a tenant.
Right, okay. So that, in that context, it's...
So the owner's still sort of there on the land, and your cattle just run there.
Okay.
So can I go back a bit? So you said that you left, the last time you lived on the farm was when you were in year 12 and you went to boarding school. And so then you obviously decided to study law. Why did you decide to study law?
Oh, it's not a very inspiring story. Someone said I couldn't do it.
I don't think they often are. Yeah.
No. So someone said that I couldn't do it and I wasn't smart enough. So I basically made a career out of spite to show someone to prove them wrong. So, and then I just fell in love with problem solving and helping people, and I haven't really found anything else that I like as much as I have a mass comm degree, and I thought for a while I might go into journalism, but that was very short-lived. I realised I wasn't very good at interviewing people for their tragedies. I got too upset and it was all too much for me. So I just went back to law.
Yeah. So,
But yeah, out of
um,
spite.
I mean, hey, whatever gets you where you're meant to be, right? So I'm guessing there are some very significant overlap in the skills that you use in your legal practice, and you have your own legal practice.
I do. Yes, I do. We have a mixed civil lit and family law and estate planning practice that I started two and a bit years ago. And it is quite a busy practice. So there is a bit of crossover. Time management's probably key. I think that you can outsource a lot of other stuff, but if you can't outsource managing deadlines and when things need to be done and managing how you're going to do that, you're always going to have difficulties.
Mm.
You know, I can hire someone else to get the cattle in, but if I don't know when the cattle are meant to be in, there's not much point in hiring them. So it's a lot of delegation, a lot of time management, and a lot of figuring out where you need to use your resources across both businesses, really.
So you're full-time in your own business, are you?
At the moment, I'm on maternity leave, sort of. Before that, I was full-time in the business.
Yeah. So you got a full-time business, children, and then you're also running these cattle. Where are the hours in the day? Like, how do you find the time?
Well, I don't sleep that much, I'll be honest. Like I can do more than one thing at once. And that's probably like I was doing it before. I was doing a call to a client whilst putting a load of washing on while shoving something in the slow cooker. So you just have to get on with it, really. That's probably the key. And then I probably crash and burn every 3 weeks and need to just have a day in bed, just staring at the TV. You know,
Fair enough. Which one's the more unpredictable business, cattle or law, or is it pretty much the same?
Probably the cattle 2.5 years ago, but now that mum and dad are they know that I've got the new baby, so they're really just handling the day-to-day stuff for the moment. The law business is a little bit unpredictable. The family law business is unpredictable. The rest of it is quite predictable, but family law has a tendency to suddenly blow up and need urgent assistance and urgent help. And it's obviously very important because often it involves parenting matters and it is time sensitive and you know, you need to be there to support your clients. So that's probably the more unpredictable. And our office flooded 3 weeks ago, so that's caused a little bit of a hiccup in my day-to-day life.
Yeah. Okay, right. So once the cattle business, so there were a lot of work, a lot of upskilling in sort of getting that cattle business up and running. But, well, as you said, especially now, so you're given that you're on maternity leave, I think it's a technicality, right? Because you're pretty busy. But
it's a technicality, yeah.
But so they're taking over, and so I'm guessing you have plans to step back in more once.
Yeah, probably this summer I'll be back down there quite a bit because the kids will. So our youngest is only 3 months old. So once he's probably about, you know, I'll be going back up to the farm once a month at least when he's up to 6 months old. Really, I will be up there. The farm's only an hour and a half away from Perth, so it's a really good drive on a Friday, come back on a Sunday, or go up Saturday morning early, come back Sunday afternoon. So proximity, I think for a side hustle, proximity and ease of it fitting into your other life is really important because otherwise you don't have the time to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So I think I misunderstood. So your parents were previously in the Kimberley, but they're no longer in the Kimberley, right? Okay. So
my brother runs the station in the Kimberley. My parents have the farms down here.
Yeah, near Gingin. Is that where you said? Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Which does make it a bit easier, like you said, to actually be running a cattle station from Perth, going up to
that wouldn't be happening.
5.5 hours, perhaps not quite as manageable. But so it sounds as though now the business is sort of there's a rhythm to it. There's a we've decreased our cattle herd to a more manageable size. 200 was a bit big, and we're sitting at about 100 as our core herd, and the rest are selling or moving on or retiring or sell. You know, so that's a bit more manageable for Alex and I if we need to step in, or for John if he needs to do it by himself. Yeah.
And can I ask a dumb question? So how does one make money from cattle? Like you buy them as young cows, do you? And you feed them up and then you sell them. Is that essentially what happens?
That's one way of doing it. And it's a great question, Shayla, because some of us aren't making any money off the actual cattle. Some of us are just burning more money into the cattle because unfortunately we bought this cattle herd and then the cattle prices completely crashed So we've had it hasn't been overly profitable for the last 3 years either, but cattle prices are on the way up. So there's two ways to do it. You either breed a herd and, you have a cow who has a calf and then you fatten the calf and you sell the calf, or you buy calves, you fatten them, you turn them over and you sell them again. Ours are all beef cattle. We sell mostly to the southern market and we have a mix of Black Angus, Murray Grey and Charolais cattle. So that's it. And then you sell them, you basically go to the sale yards. We go to the Mouchet sale yards a lot and you get the price that you're happy with and you sell them per kilo.
And so you're saying, so there's obviously been an issue with the pricing of cattle over the past few years, but you're still in it. So I'm really interested. I guess it sounds as though you made this decision because there was a real connection for you with the farm. You obviously also wanted to have that environment where your kids were growing up around that. Although presumably they could have done that without you having your own cows. You could maybe just go and visit mum and dad's farm, right? That would have been easier.
Yep, they probably could have done that. Yep. We probably didn't need to buy a whole herd of cattle to do that. It's a fair point.
So I guess I'm just really interested in, there's obviously something really kind of strong internally that's pulling you to do this because you're really busy. It's maybe not super profitable at the moment. Are you thinking that it's going to become super profitable, or is it just really that you've got this internal drive?
It should become super profitable, and that was the hope. We were in it already. We'd spent the money. We were in it. We couldn't turn it around without making quite a big loss, so we had to keep going basically to see where it would go to. And the herd got quite big at one stage. We had almost 300 head of cattle, and we were like, "This is too many cattle. We need to just cut our losses and go, okay, we're not going to get the price exactly that we want for some of this, but we just need to bring this all back down to a manageable number." And look, it is fun. It is fun to go out to the farm and to do the cattle work. It is fun to see your calves and to talk about like the genetics and what bull we're going to put in this year and see what that throws with the cattle and whether we're happy with the build of the calves and the ease of the calving. All of that is good fun. And it's good fun to chase cows around and put them into a yard and stuff like that.
And that's enough, right? I mean, that's what we're trying to encourage people to do in life, really, is to find what's fun for them. And that's really where I was going with that question is there's something about it, obviously, which you love, which means that you're keeping on doing it. And if it's fun, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun in the moment. And I think it's a bit nostalgic. It reminds me of growing up and it's all family, it's mum, me, dad, it's my brothers in the yard. It's my husband, my kid in the yard. And we're having jokes and we're doing something together, building something together. So yeah, there's a lot of positive connections that come out of it. And there's a lot of positive lessons for my children to learn. Henry had to learn, actually, you don't get to just go play right now because we've got to go do this. And that they're important lessons, I think, to learn when you're growing up. And he's so cute with them. He's like, "Will we go see the calves?" I'm like, "They're not calves anymore. We've sold them." He's like, "Where do they go?" I'm like, to other places.
That's right.
Not quite ready to have the conversation about the fact that the steak that you're eating right now came from somewhere else.
It's a big connection once that's made, isn't it? It's like,
yeah. He had the connection the other day about bacon and Peppa Pig, and I was a bit like, it's too early in the morning for me to have this conversation, but it's coming. I can tell it's coming. But, there are other awkward conversations we've had to have. My father thought that it was necessary that Henry understand what bulls and cows did to make calves.
Mm-hmm.
I'm quite happy that didn't get brought up at school at show and tell. But yeah, he's certainly learning some life lessons early on and he loves it. It's good for him.
Yeah. So do you ever see a time in the future where cattle business will be your future, or you'll pick one or the other, or is it just at this point just...
I think it's unlikely I'm going to become a full-time cattle farmer. But I also don't see myself not wanting to have, even if we cut it right down and we've only got, 10, 20 head that we're just sort of having as a hobby, it's just such a good reminder of what's actually important and what is, it grounds me. Grounds me?
So
yeah,
do you
it grounds me.
It helps in your legal practice?
Yeah, I think when you're having a really technical argument about something, about what what a clause turns on a contract, or if you're having a debate about something that maybe doesn't resonate with what you actually think is important. Nothing makes me feel more connected to sort of who I am to go back out to the farm, get dirty, remember that actually the world's not going to end on that interpretation of that contract clause.
Mm.
That really helps me. I certainly am much more happier in my professional life now than I was before I had this, I guess, escape
Mm.
from
I'd
the
love to
law.
talk about that more. Tell me more about that.
About the escape or about the happiness?
Yeah, about both. Like, why do you think that is? Have you thought about that?
Well, I think it's just I think you can get really tunnel vision. I think that if you're living and breathing it and you run your own business, or you're in a position where you're working really long hours, it can start to become a self-fulfilling prophecy of this downward spiral of just work, 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 and this is really important. And you lose perspective. I think you can lose perspective really easily. And at the end of the day, what do we all need to survive? We need food to survive. We do need agriculture to survive. And it's a very honest business. I think that law is all about like how you present an argument or your interpretation, or can we make the facts fit the argument that we want it to happen? Well, you can't do that with cattle. You can't do that with agriculture. You just go out, the cow is either putting on weight or not putting on weight, or this is happening or that's happening. It's very, very clear work. Also, just the fresh air. Getting out of Perth is just brilliant. You just, get the fresh air. So I think before I had my first child, I was working in a medium-ish sized firm, and I was involved in a really big litigation that was really conceptual and really not about tangible things, really. It was a lot of legal arguments and a lot of technical work. And I remember at that point in time feeling quite unconnected or disconnected to real life, I guess, really.
Yeah, and I think that can happen. I think in so many professions, as you say, you kind of just go down the rabbit hole, right? You're just surrounded,
Yeah.
and it's this sort of self-fulfilling prophecy, and everyone around you is also in that same bubble. And so what you're doing seems so important in that moment that you can't imagine that there's a world where it's not as important as it feels to you at that moment. I remember when I was quite unwell and it was summer, and I would go out to our pool and I would lay in the pool and I would look up at the sky and, see all the stars. And I remember I found that quite grounding, because you just look and you just go, oh God, we're just like not even anything when you consider us in terms of this whole sky. Whatever drama is happening with me, actually, it's really of no consequence. It's not going to be of any consequence in, maybe in a year, 5 years, certainly not 100 years. And I can imagine that farming would kind of give you that similar grounded feeling, where it's just like you're out there in these massive fields and there's the trees and the cows. And as you say, it's just all about people need to eat, and this is what we do to eat it. It's almost kind of going back 100 years, isn't it, when that's how everyone lived a bit more, maybe
Yeah.
more than 100 years.
And I think you're right about the bubble. You can get really stuck in a bubble. I haven't worked in other cities, but I think Perth can get particularly bubbly, particularly in litigation.
It's
It's
insular
quite
too, isn't it?
cliquey. It's very insular. It's very and I think that for me, it wasn't just going out to the farm wasn't really enough. I needed a project as well, which, probably just goes to sort of the way that I find passion behind needing a project. So that is what really, has helped me in the last couple of years with building the business and stuff like that. Because if things start going really bad or really stressful that week, I just say to my husband, I say, that's it, we've got to go to the farm. I need to go deal with something that's not on my computer typing a letter.
Yeah. But that's so great that you've got that outlet, where you can
I'm
recognise
incredibly
it.
blessed, and I feel very grateful for the fact that we have that outlet available to us, because I know not everybody does, and we're very privileged to have the opportunity. And we wouldn't have been able to do this without Mum and Dad's generosity in letting us use their land.
Yeah. But even so, you've still got to sort of be prepared to say yes to that opportunity, right? Your brother presented it to you. the opportunity that came to you is as a result of your parents' work in the past and everything they've sort of put into it, but you've still got to seize the opportunity in a very busy life and sort of run with it. And you obviously found it's a great thing to be doing, but also too, from the way you're talking about it, I can hear how, as Shayla said, how important that is to you. It's not just kind of escaping to the farm, it's actually going to the farm with a purpose. And it seems like it's almost like got a therapeutic kind of.
Oh, it's so therapeutic. It's so therapeutic. It's really therapeutic. It's really good.
So even in a busy life, it's making your life better.
Some people do yoga. I go chase cows.
No, but I mean, it's an overlap. Downward cow. No, I don't know yoga enough to make some sort of pun. I'm still sad I haven't been able to work the best pun I came up with for this interview, Katie. I wanted to ask you what the catalyst was, but I didn't.
No, you didn't.
But
that would have been good.
It would have been good. Shayla said not to.
She always makes me out to be the killjoy. I'm not the killjoy.
Shayla wouldn't let me.
I think it's such an interesting conversation, right? Because there's lots of people, I think, who have passions other than their job. And I guess deciding to pursue those passions is sometimes a really hard decision because people are super busy. They're super busy and they wonder how they can fit all of the things that they've already got in their life plus some other things. But I think what I'm hearing you say is that actually this extra work almost acts as a pressure valve for the rest of your busy life, right? So it has in some way, there's a word I'm trying to think of, complemented maybe, or, acted in a way that it's actually been super beneficial to you. And whilst you are probably, if you looked at how many hours you're working every day, you're busier in doing everything that you're doing. Actually, it doesn't necessarily feel like that to you because of how much joy you're getting out of that extra work that you're doing.
Yeah, and certainly you feel, when I go out and I look at my cows, when I go out and see how they're going, there's a real sense of achievement. Look at them. They're so fun. They're so cute. Look at them. They're so happy. They're running around and they're so chill and you can go up to them and then you see the boys when we're getting them ready to go off to market, which is a bit sad. I don't love the fact that they go off to market, but they're big, they're healthy, they're good cattle, and there's a sense of achievement. Similar to how I feel about a really well crafted and formatted letter. I feel a real sense of achievement when that gets done, and I feel the same with the cattle. But it definitely acts as a pressure valve, and for me, it just reminds me that, like I said, that the world isn't probably going to come to the end over the interpretation of a clause in a contract.
It's an automatic perspective builder. Really?
Yes, just brings everything into perspective.
And I guess too, I mean, I was thinking about the example you gave about the letter. For me, we talked about this in the Values podcast about perfectionism, and sort of, to me also too, like a really well-crafted letter is a beautiful thing, but I always find it hard to let go of something that's I've written because I think, I could always play around with it. Maybe I should just change that semicolon or whatever. But I guess too, you might be better at that than I am. But also, too, there's a real simplicity in your, I don't want to say KPIs, cowPIs.
That's a good one, Kate.
Thanks. Well, but there's a simplicity to it, isn't there?
Yes. Cow has calf. Calf puts on weight. Yes. Sell calf. Make money.
Yes.
There is a few other steps in between, but there is a simplicity to it.
And it's a very simple measure. You can't overthink that measure.
No. It's nice.
I had a side gig for a while. We had a national wholesaling business of toys, actually, like kites. And I used to get up, at 5 o'clock in the morning and do 2 hours of work in that and then go off to my day job and then come home and do the same. And I mean, I think it got too much because there was lots of other things also that I added onto that list over a long period of time. But actually, I just used to love that work. I never used to begrudge getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and having to sit there. And actually, it was probably the best part of my day where I was able to do that kind of work. And so I think for people that feel as though there's something that they're drawn to in a side gig, I think it's just so important to think about that. my advice would be to just do it. Is your advice the same, Katie?
Yeah, I think it is. I think also life is too short to do something you're miserable. So if you
Mm.
don't have the passion in your everyday life, but for whatever reason you can't change that job or you can't alter your pathway, and I love my job
Yeah.
as much as I love my side hustle, I also love my job. I
Mm.
love getting up. I love my business. I love what I'm building.
Mm.
And that means that I, don't really feel the grind every day. I generally feel very motivated to do things. But if you don't, for whatever reason, can't have that passion in your current job or main profession, find something that you love doing and do it, whether it turns into a profitable side business or whether it's just a really intense hobby.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, you've got to find the passion in your life and you've got to chase it, because otherwise, what are you going to do when you're dead?
Yeah.
Is someone going to look at the montage of your photos and it be you grumpy? Or are they going to go, wow, they really did everything that they wanted to do when, like, they found joy and happiness
Yeah.
wherever they could?
That's a key thing, isn't it? Joy. I mean, I think joy is, and just doing things for the love of it. I have a bit of a side hustle in it, but it's certainly not something I make money from. But as a wedding celebrant, and I did that because my daughter was a bridesmaid at her friend's wedding, and the groom's brother was the celebrant, and he'd gone through it's essentially a tape course you have to do, and then and he did such a beautiful job, and it was such a gorgeous thing to witness.
Mm.
And the next morning, on a bit of a whim, I'm like, I'm signing up for this course. And I've done 4 weddings so far for people I know, and it is just pure joy.
Yeah,
I've
I
got a
think it's
couple
really
coming up
important.
that I don't know as well, and that sort of charging a little bit for that. But it is just that is the simple component, and getting to do it is just so it's like a hit of not dopamine, but it's just you get to be around people at a really happy time.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
It is just glorious, joyous, a
Yeah.
Yeah.
wonderful thing, like a true privilege, and it is just an absolute boost every time I get to do it. It's just wonderful. So yeah, it's not to be discounted, is it? Just doing things like that for the sheer joy of it.
Yeah, I hope my lasting legacy of what I would like is that my kids say she lived a joyful life. She
Yeah.
lived a happy life,
Mm.
because it really is just life's too short and you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
But I think that it's also just such a great place to start, because I speak to so many people who don't necessarily want to do what they're currently doing, and they don't know where to start, and they feel so lost. And so I think it's just follow the joy is the place to start. So for you, Katie, that was about the farm, and so it was obvious for you when you did that. For Kate,
Yeah.
it's about hanging out with other people. But I think we recently also spoke to Nick Hudson on the podcast, and he started the push-up challenge, and he started that just because there was him and his 4 mates who wanted to do some push-ups. And then he realized actually how much joy that brought him, and now he's grown it into this.
The connection with the others as well. It was, yeah.
Exactly. It brought him joy. All of those, the connection to people, the being able to help people, all of those things brought him joy. He didn't set out to have a side hustle. He set out just to do a thing that he loved, and then actually it grew into a side hustle and then stopped being the side hustle and become the main thing, all just because he was enjoying it so much and he was just really following the joy. So,
Yeah.
I think it's for people who are feeling, stuck in roles where they feel like they can't exit and there's various financial constraints and things, then just find something outside of work which you really enjoy and start doing it, because you don't know where it's going to take you.
Yeah, and I think that if somebody needs to do a side hustle for a financial gain, then I think that it would be really hard to do a side hustle that you don't love doing as well as a job that you don't love doing.
Right.
Like I wouldn't encourage people to go into a side hustle thinking that this is going to make me heaps more money, because inevitably it's probably going to be a lot of time, and if you don't love it, then it's going to be really hard if you're not loving either parts of what you're doing. So I think that to have a successful side hustle, that it has to start from a place of joy or a place of passion. Otherwise, you're going to be grinding in both areas, and that seems quite exhausting.
Yeah.
That's a great point, I think.
Even
That's
for me,
very
that
true.
sounds exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I think making yourself get up and do the 5 a.m.s or, whatever it is.
Yeah, if you don't want to do
on the
it, that's
weekends.
really hard. Yeah.
No, that's just making your life harder. Not at all.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. So you're right that actually let's just decide that here on the Outlaws podcast, that if you're going to have a side gig or you're going to do something, it's got to be because, you love it. It's
Yeah.
joyful. That's the rule. Do
Yeah.
you have a little phrase about that you can come up with, Kate? Like joy is mandatory for side hustle. Come on, quick.
Oh, God, you're putting me under pressure. Oh, gosh, Shayla, I can come up with a pun, but I'll need a few minutes.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, let me think. Let me think on that one. I'm still very focused on my cattle and cow puns.
Okay.
So,
All right. You can have some time. Next time you can tell me what it is.
Katie, this has just been so helpful. And I think so much good stuff has come out of this for people who are thinking about side hustle. Because I know, as you said yourself, you were lucky. This just fell into your lap a bit. Your brother approached you, but obviously you recognized, like you said, that this opportunity was going to fulfill or tick a lot of boxes for you and fulfill something that perhaps was a little unfulfilled at the time. In some ways, like you say, that's a bit of luck, but also too, you had the wherewithal to take up that opportunity, even though to some extent your life looked already very, very full. But for people, but it doesn't have to appear in that way, does it? I think you recognized it, you felt the joy, and you felt your reaction to that opportunity. But I think that's such a good thing for people to take away too. It's just, that's what you want to hone in on. What is it that can
Yeah, what
give
is
you
it that
that?
makes you happy? If I wasn't doing this as a side hustle, I'd probably be doing events. I really love organizing a good event. I really love getting people together in a room. But I think that if you are feeling like something's lacking in your everyday life, you will find something. You should find something that is joyous to fill that.
Mm.
Because, otherwise you're not going to be very happy.
No.
Yeah.
And happiness is what's most important, I think. And, I know people with like baking businesses, and one of my friends is a breathwork instructor. That's her side hustle. She also works for a big company, and all of those people's side hustles have, as we said, come from a place of joy and love. That's their passion, and that's then they've turned that into a side hustle.
Yeah. And you never know where that's going to end up too, I think, is the thing.
No.
Follow that spark, follow the joy, and see what becomes of it too, I think. Either it's going to help you, like you say, with your day job if you're not enjoying it so much, or it's just because it's just going to be something joyous, but it might actually turn into more.
Yeah, I think being curious is important as well.
Yeah.
If it's something that interests you, then have a think about how that could serve you, I guess.
Yeah.
What's the reaction when you tell people you have a cattle business?
You probably get 1 to 3 reactions like, oh, wow, that's really weird. And I'm like, yes, well, now let me tell you about why that's not weird.
That was me.
And then you get, oh, okay, yeah, because I know you're from a farm and that makes sense. And then I get, you sell cattle. You terrible person.
Yeah, right.
Okay,
And,
right.
how dare you do that?
Yeah.
When I was younger, I would always engage with that person and say, well, actually, we really love our animals, and it's actually really, animal welfare is like our number one priority, and so forth and so forth. And I do still educate and try to educate when people have a different reaction than a positive one, but I'm probably not as gun-ho about it as I was when I was younger. And to be honest, that's just down to pure exhaustion.
Right. Well, to me, I was assuming that the first reaction would be, but how are you doing that?
Yeah. A few, obviously people ask that, but honestly, well, I don't, I need to have a lot of things going on to feel stimulated and to feel like I'm, in a really good headspace. But certainly there have been times where I'm like, what am I doing?
Well, look, thank you so much again for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
It's been really fun. And I think Outlaws, if you're listening to this and you've got a really interesting side hustle, we're interested in hearing about it, because as we talked about earlier, we're going to have a semi-regular segment about this. So we're keen to talk to anyone, and we challenge you to have anything more interesting than cattle as your side hustle. So thank you
I'm
so
sure
much.
there's lots
Katie.
of people with much more interesting ones. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Katie. It's a great to talk to you. Well, thank you so much to Katie. That was such a wonderful chat. I really enjoyed hearing about her business, and it came about from a family connection, but Katie felt the joy and went with it, and I think that's such a big takeaway from today's episode.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you can't maybe have a side hustle without something that you really love. So I think that's something for everyone to think about if they're considering doing a side hustle.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and before we go today, I also just wanted to say thank you to everyone who leaves us reviews on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or other places. We actually really love getting them. And I wanted to read out one that we got the other day because, I really appreciate that people take the time to write them in their very busy days. We got one that said, I'm loving the Outlaws podcast, which has practical tips and a big dose of inspiration for anyone looking to move on from law or any other big identity defining career. It breaks down some of the big what ifs and gives practical advice and ideas and next steps, e.g., the backwards budget. So, wasn't that nice? That was so nice to get that.
So nice. Thank you
Yeah.
so much to the kind person who left that review. It's really nice to hear.
Yeah. And I also want to say thanks to the people in the Facebook group who give us ideas about what we might talk about on the podcast. We're always happy to hear those ideas. So please keep talking to us. We're trying to make a podcast that is useful for you. So the more we know what's useful, the better we can try to be.
Absolutely. 100% agree.
Well-
Hard agree, Shayla.
Hard agree. Excellent. Thanks. So we can agree on that even if we can't agree on names.
Well, we kind of have Outlaws After Hours. I reckon that's it. I'll let Side Hustler go.
I might in Spotify you can put up a poll, I think. So I'm going to put up a poll with the 3 names and see which one people like. Let's see how many side hustler get. Yeah. All right. Have a great week, Kate.
Thanks, everyone. See you next time, Shayla. See you next time, everyone. Bye.
Bye.